morning, everyone. Good morning. One of my favorite things at Westside, especially lately, has just been how darn social you all are with each other. It makes me really happy. Good morning. Welcome to Westside Unitarian Universalist Church. I am the Reverend Carol Bodeau. My pronouns are she, her, and hers, and I'm privileged to serve here as minister. I want to say good morning to all of you, including those of you who are with us virtually. We have a wonderful full room of people here, and often we forget that there's a wonderful full room of people with us virtually. So I will ask you all to turn to the camera, wave. Hello, everybody. Whether you're with us right now in this moment or at some point in the future watching this video, we're glad you're here with us as well. So there's a lot going on at Westside. Today we're actually going to be watching television. Today we're going to be watching a video from General Assembly, which is really going to help us be focused more sort of at the broader level on how our denomination works for social justice. This is a place where a lot of things happen. Social justice things, community things, transformation, change, comfort, reassurance. It's a place where all the best things of community can occur, where we support each other. And everyone is welcome in this community. The only thing that we ask is that you bring your heart open, your mind open, and yourself willing to be authentically who you are when you're with us. So if you are with us in person and you have one of these handy-dandy little orders of service, there's lists of stuff going on. If you're with us virtually, those announcements should have been scrolling, and you'll see some of them on our screen. A couple things to highlight right now. So today we're going to be watching a a recording from General Assembly, and then having a discussion about it. And then you can continue those discussions at potluck. Following potluck, we are having our first Mystical Moments discussion group. So we're starting this new discussion group on first Sundays where people are talking about their understanding of mystical experiences, their questions about mystical experiences, things that they have themselves experienced. It's just an opportunity to talk about that topic. And starting next week, we are starting another new opportunity for discussion, which is our compassionate communication group. And compassionate communication is an opportunity to learn. It's based on Marshall Rosenberg's nonviolent communication model. It's slightly modified. I've slightly modified it from that. But it's an opportunity not just to avoid conflict, but to learn how to actually identify the triggers that make us react the way we react, and to learn how to come to communication in a responsive, nourishing way rather than a reactive, I'm going to prove I'm right kind of way. Also, a couple of auction events that are coming up that I want you to know about. There's a bunch of great stuff happening. Some of these events, you know, they were organized at the time of the auction, but you can always contact the planners to see if you would like to participate. We have a crochet class that's starting today. We have a dinner and music event happening on May 16th. And at my farm on Saturday the 9th and Saturday the 23rd of this month, we're having some picnics. You are welcome to come to those picnics if you would like to come. And you don't even have to necessarily register for that in advance. For my event, you can just let me know you're coming and chip in $5 towards the church or $10 towards the church when you're there. So you can check those out on our website, or like I said, on your order of service or in the announcements. Okay, so we begin our services here by inviting our Himalayan bowl to sound. And this is an opportunity to just take a breath and come into this room. Notice how I'm slowing us down. We are all going so fast so much of the time. So in a moment, I'm going to invite the bowl to sound, but I'd invite you to just push the pause button on your overactive brain and nervous system, because we live in a society where Every algorithm is designed to ramp you up. And this is an opportunity and a place to turn the volume down on being ramped up so that we can actually listen more responsively. So as the bowl sounds, just take a few deep breaths. Come fully present into your body, into this moment, in this space. Ellen Greenwood is going to light our chalice for us this morning. And our chalice lighting words are from Sangye Hak, and they're based on a line from a Tibetan dedication prayer. With the lighting of this flame, let us grow the radiance of joy. With the lighting of this flame, let us spark the brilliance of hope. With the lighting of this flame, let us shine upon the hearts of all those who suffer, who yearn, and who crave the joyful noise of community, all beings, not one left behind. And Ellen's going to light our community candles for us this morning. We have developed the tradition here of lighting a candle for the joys in our community, the sorrows in our community, this extending beyond the walls of this room. And today, we are going to light 3 candles. The first candle is for all that is arising out of fear. How much of your day is connected to fear? How much in our world arises out of fear? How many actions do we see on the news and in our neighborhoods that arise out of fear? We light a candle to bring clarity to that. And a candle for those actions that arise out of grounded love. Love centered in hope, commitment, not fear, but courage and the willingness to take action toward the good out of a sense of love and faith. And our central candle this morning, we light specifically for the trans community, those members of our community here, in our families, in our neighborhoods, in our lives, and in the larger world. The topic of our service this morning is going to be about supporting the trans community and how the trans community is being targeted and manipulated specifically for the purposes of division. So we're going to be watching a part of a talk, not the whole talk, but part of a talk by a trans activist named Imara Jones. And part of the reason we're doing this, but only a very small part of this, is that we are what is known as a welcoming congregation. So many years ago, this congregation, along with many other Unitarian Universalist congregations, committed to be a congregation where LGBTQ plus people would feel welcomed. And that's not just like, oh, we'll say that, that's great. It's that we're committed to learn about that, to continuing to expand our awareness and our understanding. So the congregation went through a process in order to get certified for that. And we renew that certification now every year through specific committed acts. And one of those acts, so that includes talking about it in worship, it includes doing celebratory things. We will have our Pride service at the beginning of June here. And specifically today, one of the requirements we're fulfilling is having an educational moment and an opportunity for discussion, for community discussion on these topics. So this actually fulfills one of the requirements we have as a community committed to constantly growing and learning on this topic. This talk comes from the Ware Lecture. So the Ware is named after a guy named Henry Ware. The Ware Lecture is the keynote talk every year at General Assembly, which is our denomination's big conference. And the speakers are very important cultural shifters and movers and voices. So the president of the denomination invites someone each year to give the talk. Those speakers over the last over 106 years. The Ware Lecture started in 1920. Some of the speakers have included Reinhold Niebuhr, Henry Steele Commager, Howard Thurman, Linus Pauling, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Jesse Jackson, May Sarton, Kurt Vonnegut, Elaine Pagels, Mary Oliver, and many, many, many others. So Imara Jones is at that caliber of social change. She gave the lecture in 2025. She's a journalist, a political journalist, a transgender activist. She held economic policy posts in the Clinton White House and a communication position at Viacom, where she led the award-winning No HIV/AIDS campaign. She chaired the first high-level UN meeting on gender diversity and is the creator of Translash Media. She was named one of Time Magazine's 100 most influential people in 2023. She's an extremely influential and important cultural change mover for this movement, not just for the trans movement, but also for anti-authoritarianism. So we're going to watch about 30 minutes of her talk. So Brad's going to go ahead, Brad, you can roll that. And then after we watch this, we're going to have a chance to discuss it. So this is an opportunity for all you people who like to take notes. Grab or borrow a pen now and write down your questions. If you are with us virtually, you can put your questions in the chat, and Brad will be able to let us know what those are, and then we'll be able to address your questions or your comments in the discussion as well. Okay, Brad, go ahead.
Blessed to engage her work and ideas for this year's Ware Lecture. Please join me in welcoming Imara Jones. Engage her work and ideas for this year. Please join me in welcoming Imara Jones.
Thank you all so much. Thank you for that warm welcome, Sophia. We should all settle in because we have a lot to talk about over the next hour, so I hope that you are doing whatever you need to do in order to get comfortable and go on the journey that we are going to go on over the next hour or so. Well, one of the things I think that is interesting to me is that Sophia told me that the invitation to give the lecture is the result of a vote, in part that's taken by the staff and other members of the association. And so I was heartened because, you know, at least it's one thing that trans people have won this year. The vibes are off right now, which is probably the understatement of the moment, if not the past 50 years, right? That we are at a point that no one in this room has seen in their lifetimes, unless they were in the United States in, 1939 maybe, when the American Bund movement was active. That was the fascist movement in the United States, the domestic fascist movement in the United States that took hold and swept the nation before the attack on Pearl Harbor. Or unless you had the terrible misfortune of being in the 1930s in Europe. But with those exclusions, this is all new for everybody, no matter where you are. No matter where you were born in the United States, this is all new. And the litany of frightening, disturbing, horrifying, immoral, revolting things is longer than we can list. And that's just from the last 6 months. It is a list too long. And if we started, there would be things that we would leave off. And one of the most important things to do at a time of great peril, where the immediate past seems to fail in terms of giving a sense of where you ought to go and what you ought to do, is for us to return to bedrock and core principles. For us to remember who we are, and more importantly, who we want to be. And one of the things that I think is incredibly interesting for the Unitarian Universalist Association are the bedrock principles of who you are. You know, the first principle starts with a very clear and very focused and very unambiguous and unwavering declaration in the inherent worth and dignity of every person. And so it stands to reason, if you believe in the inherent worth of every person, that justice and equity and compassion and human rights is a natural consequence. And we all know that justice is a verb, don't we? We know that justice is not a faint hope. Justice isn't an ethereal belief. That justice is a hard road practice in which for you to fully fulfill the promise of justice, that you have to remain steadfast at the darkest of times. In fact, that's when justice counts the most. Justice counts the most when it's dark. One of the things that's really interesting, though, that I don't think that people think about is the way in which anti-trans politics have played in bringing us to this moment. Which means that there's no way to save democracy without standing up for trans rights. It literally is an impossibility. Because everywhere around the world where we see authoritarian movements that are on the march right now, anti-trans politics were the drum major of everything that they were going to bring in. You show me where there's anti-trans and its twin sibling anti-gender politics, and you can see an authoritarian regime that has either taken hold or is very much on its way. That's true in China, it's true in Turkey, it's true in Uganda, it was true in Russia, it was true in Hungary, and it's true in America. We're not separated from the world. And so what's interesting is the fact that despite this, the debate around trans people has been used to undermine democracy, to undermine the core pillars and principles of the very thing that brings the 3,000 of you together right now. And the sad thing is that too many people have fallen for it, have betrayed themselves and betrayed their principles. And that's not by accident. That's not a mistake. That's not an error. It's because people who wish to undermine society understand that transphobia is in the water of our democracy without an administered antidote. That it is something that can easily be weaponized, not only amongst people who might agree with them, but amongst people who say that they disagree with them. It is incredibly potent in that direction as well. You know, and that is because of some very intelligent brain work and focused attention and resource mobilization by people who say that they're religious, by people who say that they believe in God, by people who say that they have the best intent for all of humanity. And these people are the ones who, over the past 40 to 50 years, have seen fit to build a religious world and a religious order in which very few people will actually count, in which people actually won't or don't matter. They were once upon a time called fundamentalists, once upon a time called evangelicals, and now have formed into a much more virulent and potent form called Christian nationalism, which I know most of you all are familiar with now. But I think it is really important for us to understand that what's happened in that movement on the right is not a continuation of the religious politics of old. It is a distilling. It is a concentration of that into ever more potent and ever more virulent forms. That the Christian nationalists of today, in comparison to the fundamentalists of the late 70s and 1980s, is like comparing the Little League softball team to the majors. It's not the same force. And to the degree that you think that you know what's on the other side because it sounds like the same thing that they've been saying for 40 to 50 years, I think what's different is that now they're not just saying it. They have a plan and they're doing it. And what you are witnessing, Project 2025, was started by the Heritage Foundation, which was started by fundamentalist, what we would now call Christian nationalists, and the people that they have birthed, including dominionists, like Betsy DeVos and her family. That the political project that you are living in is the result of religious ideology. It is, from their perspective, religion in action. That's a different world. And not only is that's the world that we occupy in terms of action, unlike in the past, they've been able to capture a major political party in the United States, whereas once they were a coalition as a part of a party, and so you could kind of balance and kind of moderate. And for people who lived through, the 80s, I know that sounds strange, didn't feel moderate at the time. But the people that were once a fringe part of the coalition are now in charge. They're not running the show. And so the scale of what you feel is driven by a religious ideology, encapsulated by the New Apostolic Reformation, which says that society should be a religious caste system, where there are very few people on the top, so-called apostles, and then below the apostles are the range of people who they say are further from God and therefore have less rights and are more disposable. What do you think you're living in right now? Hell. Someone said hell. They think it's heaven. So I wanted to give that setup because I want to go into kind of the core of the argument here about the way in which anti-trans politics have led us to this moment through this religious portal, this extreme religious portal. And that is because they have done a lot of intelligent brain work about what issue could they choose that would allow them to unite their side virulently and to crack the people that say that they are opposed to them just enough in order for them to eke out elections, which would then give them absolute power to do whatever they wanted to do. And the issue that they chose was trans rights and transphobia. And I'm not talking about choosing as like getting around a table. I am talking about millions of dollars invested in very intelligent research. Who's made uncomfortable by the trans conversation? Oh, well, suburban moms are made uncomfortable by the trans conversation. Oh, there's certain people who say that they're liberals and progressives that are made uncomfortable by the trans conversation. Oh, there are people who say that they are feminists who are made uncomfortable by the trans conversation. Oh, there are people who say that they're gay and lesbian who are uncomfortable with the trans conversation. There are people who say that they are Black evangelicals who are uncomfortable with the trans conversation. And there are people who are also Latino evangelicals who are uncomfortable with the trans conversation. And so after a lot of intelligent research, they landed on trans conversation as the thing that not only would unite their side, but divide everybody who's potentially opposed to them. And that shows that this issue was designed for them to win and designed to divide. I want to ask you all a couple of questions, like, audience participation. We're kind of like 20 minutes in, so, got to keep the juices flowing here. Well, thank you. I'm glad I'm bringing it. So someone said, thank you. My heels are very upset at me now, but you know what? I don't care. My feet don't like me, but I don't care. I'm just going to raise a hand. Ask for a raise of hands. In general, how many of you think that trans people are 25% of the population? Okay, nobody. How many people, I hope this gets better. How many people think that trans people are 10% of the population? Okay, that's good. That's about 15%. Okay, how many people think that trans people are 5% of the population? Okay, that's probably another 15%. So we have about a third of the people who say that trans people are 5 to 10%. How many people think that trans people are 2% of the population? Okay, that's another 15%. Okay, so 45% of you believe that trans people are somewhere between 10% and 2% of the population. Trans people are 1% of the population. And that's on a high counting day. That's if you get the right sample. That means that there are as many trans people as there are redheads. How many redheads are in this room? About 1%. Okay, second audience participation question, and then I'll allow you to go back to being a passive listener, because I hate being in classes where they ask me to participate. Believe it or not, I know it doesn't ring true, but it really is. The question is, when did you start thinking about trans people? Did you think about trans people 20 years ago? Okay, all right, that's a good number. That's like about, okay, that's good, that's like 25%. How many of you started thinking about trans people 10 years ago? Okay, that's even more, that's probably 25%. Which is interesting. How many of you started thinking about trans people 5 years ago? How many of you started thinking about trans people 2 years ago? Okay. What's fascinating is that the largest answer was 10 years ago. And the funny thing was that was just around the time that the Christian nationalist movement began its anti-trans campaign. Right in this room, of people who believe in the inherent dignity of everyone, you've just shown the effectiveness of the campaign of the people who almost all of you would say they're against. Right here. And one of the fascinating things about that campaign is that it's disguised. It's disguised. It's disguised in some ways to appear as an intellectual campaign. It's disguised to look as if it's a campaign of common sense. It's disguised to look at to make it appear that these are just logical things to inquire about. But if trans people are just 1% of the population, and they began their campaign against anti-trans people 10 years ago, and that's when most people in this room said that they began to think about trans people, and that shows that there's nothing about this that's organic. There's nothing about this that's organic. It's manufactured. So what are the pillars of some of the manufactured nature of this? Well, like any good effort, especially if you are dealing with liberals and progressives who like to see themselves as being smart and rational and detached, and it's just a natural consequence of things that I'm a liberal because liberalism makes sense. You have to create people that talk the same language. Well, what do? Well, first of all, you create pseudo-scientific organizations whose entire job it is in the world to put out so-called intellectual and scientific and peer-reviewed papers that are about trans people and question whether or not transness is a result of a social contagion, like Dr. Lisa Lippman, a professor at Brown, who supposedly created this research that showed that trans people were new. A new phenomenon that didn't exist before. And that all these kids were suddenly talking about transness at their school, and then lo and behold, you end up, with everybody trans at the school. And you put that paper out there, and you get it published in, at that time, well-regarded scientific journals. So it begins to populate the conversation and the ideas amongst people who consider themselves to be academics and intellectuals. That report, for example, though, has since been retracted and taken down because it was scientifically unsound. But we know that once things get out and get the imprimatur of legitimacy, that they take a life of their own. So then you get someone to write a book, kind of which echoes these principles. You get someone like Abigail Schreier, who is a former columnist for the Wall Street Journal, to write a book in many ways based upon Lisa Lippman's ideas, called Irreversible Damage. And you put on the cover a girl who seems to have a missing circle around her genitals, which immediately stokes fears of erasure and elimination and a war on women and girls. And you get her to write not only Lisa Lippman's ideas about social contagion, but she gets to put ideas in it that are unfounded about, the harm that can be caused by gender-affirming care. What's fascinating about gender-affirming care is that it's less experimental than Ozempic. There's 5 decades of research on the safety of gender-affirming care. There's not 5 decades of research on the thing that tens of millions of people are injecting in their bodies without any idea of the long-term effects of it. And then she gets to go on, various programs. She's go on podcasts and gets interviewed by Joe Rogan, who made his entire brand off of just asking questions. I'm just asking questions, right? Just asking questions, just a smart thing to do. Because this thing is new, right? And so since it's new, let's just ask a bunch of questions about it. And then you get these ideas disseminated into the water. And then on top of that conversation, you create pseudoscientific organizations like GenSpect and the American College of Pediatricians, right? The American College of Pediatricians is a Christian nationalist medical group that puts out pseudoscience, a part of it which says that transness isn't real and trans medical care is dangerous and all these things. There are probably 700 doctors in the American College of Pediatricians. There are 70,000 in the American Academy of Pediatrics, which says that gender-affirming care is safe, both for youth and for adults. And you do all of this in such a way as it begins to take a life of its own. It's slowly disseminated over time so that you don't notice it. It's put in places where you will see it and read it. You create it at such a volume that it actually bleeds into places that pretty much probably everyone in this room reads or has read the New York Times. You are able to hack our conversations. And what that means is that almost every conversation that you've had about trans people, either when it comes to bathrooms, or sports, or medical care, or pronouns, is a result of an orchestrated campaign to get you to have that conversation. Because you're not having the conversation that trans people would want to have with you. Right? You don't get to hear about what our lives were like as children, what it meant to grow up in a world that erased us, what it meant to grow up in a world that was inherently dangerous for who you are, what it meant to be 4 times more likely to be homeless or unhoused or to face record levels of violence solely for being who you are, solely for expressing the fundamental human dignity that you have inside of yourself. You won't get to hear the terrible ordinariness of trans people, how trans people wish to work and build families and travel in ways that are uninterrupted and unmolested and unharmed. You won't get to hear about the incredible insights that trans people bring because of the ability to see outside of the binary. You won't hear about the tremendous cultural contributions that trans people have made. Hobbies, people running for political office, what they bought on Amazon.
It's almost like we're people.
Talk. So I want us to have a little bit of a conversation about what we've heard so far. So I have runners who are going to help me. Ellen and Barry and Morgan as well is going to help with the conversation. So Barry, let me give you the microphone. And Ellen and Morgan, let me give you these. So the Unitarian Universalist Association created a study guide to go with this lecture, which we're passing out to you, the fundamentals of it. But the first thing I want to ask you is just, how are you doing? How are you doing?
This is Judy. I just have to give a personal note. So our speaker said there were 3,000 people in the audience. My daughter was one of those 3,000, and she has 2 trans children.
Sabina?
You ask how we're doing. My blood is boiling. When I was watching this, it was like unbelievable remembering of how it must have been like during the Nazi time when they decided to single out a group of people and make lies about them and publicize it and prosecute them. I mean, there were so many more Jewish people, of course, but it reminds me of that, and it's totally fascism, and I'm just angry. Thank you for listening.
So I want everybody to take a really big, deep breath. Because our normal responses are going to be anger, fear, grief. Take a minute to think about the people in your life or in your body or in your home who you love, who we all love, who are directly threatened by this. How are other people doing? Just your first responses. Let's just take a minute for Ellen, first response.
I've got
Diane.
the mic. This is Diane.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to say that it's fear with me, and that I have a friend whose grandchild is transgendering now, and her son had to take his family and leave Tennessee and move to New Hampshire, where they are feeling safe and welcome. And I agree with Sabina. What are we ending up becoming here? It's frightening.
Yeah.
I agree that it's very frightening. But one thing that I kept thinking of as I listened to Imara was how thankful I am for West Side and other congregations such as West Side. I know that we are not the only one, but when she asked some of her questions, like, when did you first really become aware of trans people? I know for me, that was when West Side started our initial work to become a welcoming congregation. And, you know, I thought I was a liberal person, and I was fine with people being lesbian or gay. But my thinking was so rudimentary. I mean, it was so, I was so stupid about all of this, really, so uninformed. My thinking was entirely binary. We were so behind, myself particularly, that, you know, we really couldn't quite figure out bisexual people, because that was just strange. Anyway, the point is, we learned so much. We learned about gender. We learned a little bit about trans people. We began opening our minds. And since that time, all the work that we have done, we have gotten to know people whom we came to love and do love in our congregation. We've become more aware of the people we may know in our own lives who maybe are not just, you know, straight cisgendered people. And I don't know, I wonder if I had not been a part of West Side, where would I be right now in that conversation?
Yeah, yeah.
So I want to say that I guess I'm disturbed in a way by how easily the conversation, the greater conversation has been manipulated and hijacked, and even us. So I think we, as Unitarian Universalists, seem to a lot of times, think, oh, we're yous and we know best because we're very smart people. And just the last comments really made me remember we need to really center the marginalized groups or whomever we're trying to help. And I know we do this with our justice and generosity. Like, what do you need? What matters to you? I want to know what's in our Amazon shopping cart. So, really taking a step back and remembering we need to not so easily feed into the rage machine. Not everything needs to be reaction to what's online, what's in the Twitter sphere, what's on your news channel, and really kind of decentering that and center what is important, because I think it is we're getting played. We're all getting played. So I think that's important to kind of pull back from.
Morgan's got, is this something from, sorry.
Okay, I want to say
First,
something
Sydney, first,
quickly.
Go ahead.
In the beginning of the service, your invocation talked about not living in fear, but living in hope. And we feel a lot of fear around this issue, but I think fear and hope are kind of intertwined, that out of your fears can generate your hopes, and that acts as something to work toward, or gives you motivation to work toward those solutions.
Yep. Sydney.
Through the whole conversation, I'm not a public speaker, so first of all, I apologize. But
You're good.
Through that whole speech, I always come back to thinking about how, at the root, trans people are just people, and that they deserve to get to talk about what interests them and what they like to do and what makes them people. And it hurts me that they have stacked manufactured issues that gets in the way of people living their authentic self. I have so many friends that are trans that when I see them become their authentic self, you see them happy and be able to talk about what they have always wanted to talk about that is not a manufactured trans issue. And the fact that we have these piled on issues on top of these people that just want to live their lives and live through their interests makes me extremely upset for them.
Yes, absolutely. Alice. Oh, wait, Barry Morgan's got something from the online. Is this for?
It's okay. I'll bring it to you next, Alice, okay? So we have an online, there's kind of a side conversation, if y'all don't know, that happens in live time with our online community. And there's a couple of different things that have been shared, but specifically from one of our members, she says, "I'm angry on behalf of both quote-unquote sides. I'm an advocate for trans civil rights, and I've been dismissed and labeled a TERF, which, if we don't know, is trans exclusionary radical feminist, by someone formerly a member of this congregation for simply expressing concerns regarding trans women in competitive sports. I'm hurt that there seems to be no gray area to discuss these things. Frankly, not being able to, quote, just ask questions smacks of male entitlement," which I think goes into the intersectionality of all of these issues too. And that's a Morgan comment. That's not from them.
Morgan, could you explain what you mean by that, please?
Intersectionality?
Intersectionality, yes.
Okay, so intersectionality is the idea that you've got multiple different concepts and things going on, right? Our speaker today was a trans woman of color, and so she has all of the things going on of trans rights, but also of being Black in America. And there are many people who, maybe they have that, and they are low income, and they have have disabilities, and they are neurodivergent. And every identity that you can think of that you would use to describe yourself can all stack on top of each other, and each one impacts that individual person. So when we're talking about trans rights, we're not just talking about they live in this silo of trans rights. We're talking about them as Sydney said, as a person, because that's what people are, is trans people are people. And intersectionality is going to inherently come in that way as well.
Thanks, Morgan. Yeah.
Told you I'd bring it back.
I knew you would. I just wanted to say that centuries ago when I was 19, and my father was such a non-liberal liberal. He was a proclaimed, self-proclaimed liberal, but he wasn't. He was not accepting of any of my friends. You know, they were queer, they were lesbians, they were all these different things, and he just hated all of them, every single one. And when my first roommate, who was trans, moved to New York and within a couple of months was murdered, is when I stood up to my father some. It drove me out of my passivity of being passive. And I stood up a lot more. We did not have a UU church in the area at that time. I wish we had. That would have been some support. But it just led me not to speak because I was afraid. There was a lot of fear there. And yes, I was a lesbian. I just couldn't talk about it most of the time. And today, even though this is going on, I think it's a lot safer than it used to be, though there are a lot of conservatives and, you know, hate groups that do not accept the queer world, the trans world. And I just find it hard to know what to do about it other than vote. And nobody stands up that truly backs and strongly backs this group of people that are so good. And I wish there was a way that was different. It's just my hope.
Yeah. So one of the things that the study guide asks us to consider, and we will talk about this in the future, is what we should be doing as a congregation. What more can we be doing as a community? So I want to ask you one other question. I know we're getting close to time here, but here's a question. How many people in this room, when you listen to this, thought, oh, crap, my conversations have been shaped, and oh crap, I've seen that in this. Okay, so it wasn't that long ago that we had the pronoun conversation here, 6 years ago, 5, 6 years ago, and it was a big old fight. The pronoun conversation was a big old fight. It was a mountain we had to climb as a community. I would like to congratulate us because I think we've climbed that freaking mountain and we've gotten over that freaking mountain. Yes, yay for us. But it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy, right? And how many of us have had our thoughts? I can say this for myself. After I watched this, I thought, I need to think a little bit more and read more better stuff about the sports question. I think we can ask questions. I think we say we should ask questions. We should have those conversations, but we should probably make sure we're checking which resources we're reading a little more carefully. Right? That was one of my takeaways. Like, I literally, the first thing I did after I watched this was go and research the American College of Pediatricians and the American Academy of I was like, oh my word, But if I had just read a quote on the internet from the former, I would have been like, oh, they're pediatricians. They know what they're talking about. I would not have done the background research I needed to do to understand my source. So how many of us fall into that category, right? So what are some of your thoughts? Let's just do a quick review. What are your thoughts about what you want to do differently? I know one of the things I need to do differently is like actually take my resources more seriously, ask some questions, consider the possibility that I've been more manipulated just by general little bloop, bloop, little comments in the public sphere. Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Sure, okay. That I need to be more careful. What are the thoughts you're having about what's going to change for you? What do you need to do? What are your thoughts for yourself? Because watching this and getting upset is pointless if it leads to zero changes in our behavior, or just us assuming that we were already all right and doing just fine. So what else can we be doing? Learning. And can you take the microphone over there, please? Danielle.
As I am walking, I'm also going to say we will be doing, oh no, I got it. We will be doing a service soon that talks about what we can be doing as well.
Thank you, Morgan. Good morning, everybody. I just wanted to say one thing that helps me with a lot of these issues is the people on the other side, they're deeply held beliefs, and they might be really stinky and we might not like them.
Yeah.
But we have to also see their humanity.
Absolutely.
So that helps me just kind of take the edge off when I get enraged at just people trying to pit us against each other, because that's been going on forever. And just don't listen to it, and just accept that that's their journey.
Yeah.
And don't let it affect you.
Yeah. And also, thank you for that, Danielle. Another thing that we can remember is that how many of us know someone who used to be more on a different side of an issue than they are today because someone in their family, maybe ourselves, someone in their family, someone they love, came out to them. And they worked through it, and they recognized, oh, this is a human being. And if we can meet someone struggling, we had that in our congregation during the pronoun conversation. If we just said, you're going to use the pronouns, deal with it, well, that wouldn't have been very effective, right? That wouldn't have been very effective. Instead, we said, let's talk about that. What's hard for you about that? What matters to you? What's your value? What are you concerned about, right? To meet people with their questions and their concerns right where they are, and to honor those allows for building community. Tagline, please attend Compassionate Communication starting next Sunday. Go ahead.
Just to add to what she was saying is also, I feel the same way as, you have to look at the other side.
Yeah.
And you have to try to understand the other side.
Yeah.
And you also have to look at a lot of the other side, because of things in the economy and the way that things are going now, are starting to fall away from a lot of those fascist beliefs, and they're not being manipulated as much. I remember being a kid when I was really young, and I watched a movie about Christine Jorgensen. She was one of the first people to have the trans surgery back in the 50s. Yeah. And that really opened my eyes a lot to it's not necessarily about the physical change, it's about what is inside their mind and how they feel about things. And I think that's what we have to look at, is your mind can be changed. And the people that are on the other side, their mind can be changed. And also to remember, we defeated the Nazis, right? Everything is cyclical, and it'll come back around. Yeah. And good always wins. It might take some time, but it will happen, I think.
Yeah. That quote is, the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice, right? Yeah, Sabina.
I think what would be good for West Side, if possible, to have something like a round table where we invite trans people and really have them share with us their concerns and how we can help them, and to really hear it in a group and take it from there.
Yeah.
I will add, we do have trans individuals in this room right now. Cough, cough, my pronouns are they, them.
Did you catch that? Okay, don't say it. Could you say that louder?
There are people in the room right now who are under the umbrella of transgender. My pronouns are they, them. So technically I count. I consider myself like not with that term, but technically I count. So we do have trans individuals all in the room. I think it's important that we remember they are people. We don't owe it to anybody to educate anybody, but we are usually happy to share our experiences. Sometimes we just don't want to talk about it because it's exhausting and it's tiring to be out here trying to live your life and then be asked all the time, well, what is it like? We can give you guys resources, though.
And we do have access to some people who are trans activists. I am at liberty to say that my son, who is an artist and a speaker and who was known in this congregation before transitioning, is a trans activist who has said he is happy to speak. And we have other people who are willing to stand publicly, and not because they want their lives interrogated, but because they consider it part of their calling to be speakers. So we can do that, Sabina. So maybe just like one or two more comments, because I know we're right at time.
I'll be real quick. I think there's related issues that are also very challenging right now. Gender fluidity is many young people, they may consider themselves trans today and cis later. There's a lot. It's just the whole concept of gender fluidity and polyamory, so forth. Those are things that are also very challenging and divisive in our society.
Yeah.
If I can get this out. I just want to say I'm overwhelmed and I'm grieved over the fact that a lot of us, I was duped. I was in that group of fundamental evangelicals, and I put that in quotes anymore. And I'm thankful for this place. I'm thankful for these people who have shown me the truth about what I used to think. And I'm sorry that I used to think those things. And I also wanted to say that Zan gave me a book to read that opened my eyes even further about Amy Schneider. I don't know if any of you have read that book, but that book explained so much to me and changed my way of thinking.
Beautiful. So I want to invite us all first to just take another big, deep breath. One of the things that many of the trans people I love that are close to me will often say is, at its core for them, transness is about transformation and the power of transformative love and the courage and the willingness to transform into the thing you most know you're meant to be. Right? Which is a journey. It's a process for all of us. And that might be transforming from being someone who is reactive out of fear to someone who is courageous out of love, right? It may mean changing your job. It might mean changing your marriage. It might mean changing the way you talk to other people. It could mean a lot of things, but at the core, this is about us as a community supporting all of us, having the courage to live and love at the highest level as our most authentic selves. So I'm going to invite you, if you are so inclined, to stand. Hold hands if you feel like it. Hold your own hands. You might need to hold your own hands right this minute. But let's connect as a community. I frequently invite you to do this, and I'm going to do it now. I know you're holding hands and you're in an awkward position, but you can meet somebody's eyes right now. Turn and look at each other. There ain't nothing that matters more. Look, we get all caught up in all the stuff. But at its most basic, our lives are about connecting and loving one another. That is ultimately the only thing. Out of that, everything else can grow. Courage can grow, change can grow, possibilities can grow. But that is the most basic thing. So know that this is the place where you can do that. Let us be those people. Let us be the ones who make this happen here and spread it into the world. Go love the people who, there's nobody on the other side, folks. There is no other side. There's no other side. There's just all of us trying to figure out how to find love, be safe, and be authentically ourselves. So go out there and do it. And be loving support for all the people you need to be loving support for so they can do it too. Go in peace, go in courage, go in passion, and go knowing that you are love and you are loved. May it be so.